Hi, I'm Martin, and welcome to Upgrade Your Day, the podcast.
But can I tell you the funniest thing? On my album play, I've got a few of Mike's stuff that's on there, and one of them is all the stuff from your show. You know, all the Basil Brush like sound effects. So I was out there once when I was doing some digging, and I had this beautiful song. It was like, I want to come back as a flower. You know, it was all so good. I was away. It was lovely, and it ended. It went da da da, and then I heard. And it was a series of fart noises.
So today we reached the penultimate episode of Series 2. I can't believe we're already at almost to the end of Series 2 when my lovely friend and producer Carly said to me, I think Upgrade Your Day should be a podcast. I think it would be a great thing to do. And we started chatting about it and how people could tell us how they upgrade their day, talk to people about all sorts of subjects and hobbies and being mindful. Little did I think we'd be 30 episodes in and just spending all this time chatting to the most loveliest people, who brings me on to today's penultimate episode person, if want for a better word. It is the lovely Nicola Keane, who is married to my friend and co-worker, I guess you could say, Mike, who knows, how do I put it? Mike knows Basil Brush very well. Wink, wink. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Oh, my phone's ringing. Hang on, this is very unprofessional. Let me get this, one sec. Hello? Whenever I try and record these intros, there's always somebody that calls me or texts me or the doorbell rings. Nothing for hours on end until the moment I'm here with a blanket over my head trying to create some kind of soundproofing with this microphone. My phone starts ringing. Anyway, back to this episode. So, I chatted to Mike in episode 15 of season 1, all about puppetry. Don't know why we talked about puppetry. Very odd. She's been an actress for many, many years, and we talk all about our love of musicals and how they upgrade our day, and just about ways of being mindful as a performer. So without further ado, everybody, will you please put your hands together and welcome to the podcast, Nicola Keane. I think I needed a bit more energy with that, didn't I? Let's do it again. Nicola Keane! So I am here today with a lovely friend. Actually, just thinking about it, when did I first meet you, Nicola?
Oh, goodness me.
What would it have been?
Well, how long you've been working with Mike for? Probably, 10 years?
So as Mr. Martin in the Basil Brush show, Nicola is the lovely wife of Mike, who's Basil. We have maybe about 6-7 years.
Well, I thought it was longer than that.
Yeah, but we did do Windsor Pantomime together, so that must be where it was. Probably about 10 years then.
About 10 years, yeah. Yeah.
And then I realised I'd rather spend time with you than Mike.
Shh, he might be turning up any minute now.
But we should first of all say that you're doing a lovely show in the old court in Windsor. Mm-hmm. Joyce Grenfell, who I actually didn't know anything about, and then when I realised her whole life story and what she does as a performer, right up my street.
Yes.
Because I was a huge Victoria Wood fan, like there was no tomorrow. I remember as a kid watching Victoria Wood and crying with laughter, like literally bent over with laughter. And she is would you explain a bit about Joyce Grenfell?
Well, funny you should mention Victoria Wood, because I've seen, I think it was on YouTube or something, it was an interview with Victoria Wood. She went to see Joyce Grenfell.
Ooh.
And she was obviously in awe and everything, but she did actually meet her, so there was a connection. But you'd be surprised, a lot of sort of not stand-up comedians, but sort of people in sort of comedians, they do hold her in very, very high esteem. And of course the funny thing was, I sort of knew her because I'm old enough to have watched in my youth a program called Face the Music. Ooh. And it was for people. I think you had people like David Attenborough, and Joyce was a regular. And it was all about music, very highbrow to a certain extent, but very funny. And she was on it, and she was probably towards the end of her sort of performing career, but she had this little bit on television. And I remember watching her then, and I knew nothing really about her huge career as a sort of artist, a review artist, and everything she'd done. But then, of course, the funny thing is that this is what we say in the show, because it's a sort of, the show is like a biography of hers, but we do all her best funny songs and monologues and everything. But it does actually give you an idea of her life, journey through her life. But what I found is that when I found Review with Malcolm, my lovely co-performer, shall we say, and co-deviser, if I was ever lucky enough to meet audience members after the show, wherever we were, if we were on perhaps a cruise or a performance somewhere, they'd always come up to me and say, "You won't know who I'm talking about, but you really remind me of Joyce Gray." And oh God, if I ever had £1 for every time someone said it, because I always used to love the comedy songs and things in the reviews that I did. And I don't know what it was. I always obviously came across as Joyce. It was just a natural thing. So that's when Malk and I sort of said, you know what, we really should do something. Yeah. And that's when we got together and sort of went through all the biographies, went through her life, and then sort of picked the best sort of funny things and wove it all together into a sort of show. I
mean, I remember my parents, when I said that you do a Joyce Grenfell show, they were like, "I am not surprised. I can see her doing that.
Yeah,
I can see her doing that." I was like, yeah, exactly.
I mean, the thing I say in the show, Malcolm sort of does that thing and says, "Oh, you won't know who I remember me. You really remember." And I sort of turn to the audience and say, "Well, it's not as if I've got a long neck and prominent front teeth or anything." And of course, exactly that is, I actually look like her. You know, I've got this hugely long neck, you know, and these enormous, she called them tombstones. And I actually always called my teeth tombstones too. So, it seems like an easy thing. A lot of the patter songs and things that I used to do, they turned into that sort of a character. Yeah. And of course she was so brilliant because all the characters, she didn't always just do upper class things, because I expect many people remember for the old St. Trinian's films. Right, yeah. And because she was always this sort of hapless woman, you know, said, "Oh, you know, Police Sergeant Ruby Gates," you know, she was all like this and, you know, very gawky. But she did other characters. This was the thing, you know, she did... one of the points we talk about in the show, that she used to try and discover. She was what we call someone that observed people all the time, and she was always writing things down. And you know, her very first thing that she did was a woman who came to talk at the Women's Institute that she used to go to. And she was very much like that, and always said everything with her voice like this. And we are going to make boutonnieres this evening, and they are very useful and acceptable gifts. They're not only easy to make, but ever so easy to dispose of. You know, and of course, she says in the show, she said from the moment people started to laugh, she was astonished at the sound and absolutely loved it. Yeah. And that's how it all started. But she does loads of characters. They're all brilliant. I think
that's where that Victoria Wood comparison comes in, isn't it? Because it's very similar. But again, not very long ago, I was explaining the show to someone, and I said, "Oh, she's like the original Victoria Wood," even though you should never really say that. But I was like, that's kind of, if you're trying to think of what it is. Yeah. And do you know what they said to me, Nicola? Who is Victoria Wood?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And that's when I realised
we might as well just give up now. No, it is sad.
I was so shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to send you 1 million videos to watching having a laugh.
That's very sad.
Isn't that interesting?
You wouldn't believe that, would you?
Age has popped up now, hasn't it?
No, reared its ugly head. Well, I've got a bus pass now, you know. I cannot believe it.
It's interesting because I was trying to think, well, who would be the modern day?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Victoria Wood's still modern day to me, but obviously not anymore.
No.
Who would that be, you know, that has comical songs, monologues?
Yes.
It's hard, isn't it?
Well, it's a sort of, I mean, you know, you could probably look at people on television. I think sometimes they've done, what's the... oh God, I'm terrible with names. It's awful. The lady that does Grandma, you know,
Catherine Tate.
Yes. Now you see, there's a wonderful example of brilliant comedy characters, you know. Yeah. So yes, it's all, and of course it all comes around. Everybody learns from someone. I mean, Joyce Grenfell actually learnt from an American woman called Ruth Draper, who nobody would have heard of. I mean, you know,
definitely heard that. Yeah.
Well, she was an American, and she did these monologues, which were very famous at the time. And of course, Joyce absolutely worshipped her when she went to see her, and she said nobody could compare with this woman. So, you know, everybody learns from people before them. Yeah. And of course, in fact, monologues were a new sort of thing. I remember reading in her autobiography, she did one of the very earliest shows. She was at some church hall, I can't remember what it was, but it was at a cinema, that's right, and she had very little room to change. It was behind the screen and the back wall, so there was that, and she wasn't top of the bill. There was this other woman who was a variety artist, and they were both sort of, they had an allocated area to sort of change and do everything, and she didn't really talk to Joyce very much. She was sort of, you know, muttering away to herself while she was changing, and Joyce, they had a sort of a military band on in front of them. It was really loud because they were right behind them, you know, behind the screen, and it came for Joyce's time to go on, and of course she was doing a monologue, which wasn't so normal in those days because it's a different sort of thing. And she could hear, while she was in the middle of doing this monologue, this woman behind, you know, the top of the bill lady getting changed. She said, "What's she doing to herself? Is she just talking to herself?" And of course, you know, this is it. What you do with a monologue is you do just talk to yourself, but it's not just talking to yourself. You're trying to create something where you see the other people that are in the room with them, you know, that you're trying to sort of create an image of the people that they're talking. You sort of, it's quite it's a skill in learning to sort of pretend that you can hear them talking and then you're talking to them, and it creates this whole image. Yeah. It's fascinating to do.
It is. And very funny as well. And I should point out, obviously, as Upgrade Your Day, we're now moving into producing positive and inspiring shows.
Oh, how wonderful.
And just fun, having a little bit of fun.
Exactly.
And I think that's why it's lovely that we're producing this show, because it is all about that, isn't it?
Yes. Well, we say, you know, it's all about laughter. We've chosen all her best comic monologues and songs. And you sort of say, you know, all forms of laughter will be acceptable.
Oh, I might put that on my website.
Is it? Although smiling loudly does not really cut the mustard.
I love that. But if anybody is listening to this before the 1st of April, we are on at the Old Court in Windsor, 1st of April in the afternoon. You can get tickets online. If you've gone past April 2023, then you've missed it.
But we're available for private parties.
Yes. Oh, she'll do anything for a couple hundred quid, this one. We probably should. We probably should skip over that. We probably should go back to just having a little chat about, wow, I mean, I'm just trying to think now of a show you've done, but you've basically done every show there is, haven't you? Let's face it.
Well, sort of, yes. It was, but in a slightly different capacity. I mean, I love what I do now, but it's been a long journey. You know, I mean, I started out as a ballet dancer. So, you know, I was dancing since the age of 3. And I went to a local ballet school and did festivals, competitions. And eventually I went to a ballet company in Belgium when I was 18. And I spent 3 years out there, and I was doing all the ballets, and it was wonderful. And when I did come back to London, I thought I was going to carry on. I thought I was going to be, you know, when the season changed, I'd start auditioning for London companies and everything. But as a dancer, you have to do a class every day. it's just one of those things. You do a ballet class every day. And I used to go up to, well, in those days it was Pineapple, and I don't even know whether I'm sure they're still there, but it was Dance Works and places like that. I used to do a class every day, and I sort of fell into, I think there were people there that were sort of more commercial dancers, and I fell into musicals.
Yes.
And people had agents. I'd never heard of what's all this, an agent, And I'd always done, even my early days, I'd always done other things other than ballet. I'd done jazz and tap, to a sort of big degree. So, and I sort of found that, eventually I went for my first musical audition, which was a great musical called On Your Toes.
Ooh.
And this was the great thing. I sort of came back to London at a time when dance in musicals was huge. And this thing, they needed classical ballet dancers, to a high degree. And I got the job. Of course, when they told me about singing, I said, pardon? I had no idea that you had to sing as well. And so then it was a sort of second mortgage in singing lessons and everything. But I loved it. And it was just, there was no turning back after that. Because, ballet is a bit of a vocation. It's wonderful and I loved it. But it's very hard work. And of course, your career is over very
I was going to say, it doesn't have a long span,
Not
does
really.
it?
Unless you're a Baryshnikov or and you can go on and on into your 40s. But it's sort of over. And also, I have to say, in my day, it was quite hierarchical. You sort of have to start off as corps de ballet, then you do a year.
Work your way
Yes, yeah. And it's hard,
But did that lead you into, because you played the white cat in Cats?
I did, yes.
So that was obviously because of your ballet background.
Yes, well, yes. Ballet is, I've always thought, is the foundation for all dance. I think if you've got a solid ballet foundation, there are other people that are just brilliant. I love contemporary dance as well. In fact, I did a lot of work with a company that do a lot of Bejar, which is sort of contemporary ballet, which I loved. Okay. But it is a sort of basis. So, you do have to have a...
Well, when I was at drama school, I was told this as well. Ballet is the base of all dance.
Dance, yeah.
And then I had to do...
What did you have to do?
I had to do ballet class.
Why are you laughing?
Of course. But, and Mount was known
wonderful.
for... At the time, my drama school was known for actors that can sing a dance.
Yes.
Whereas something like, I don't know, Guildford was known for singers that can sing.
Yes,
there's always different ones.
Yeah.
So it was always very much lots of characters at Mount View, but we had to do ballet. So I had to have that whole black slip thing,
yes.
And I looked like a potato in a Tesco's bag. And every morning we would start. But do you know what? Funny enough, it was, we used to laugh at ourselves all the time, but we really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We actually enjoyed the process of learning ballet. It's just I don't know if it's right to say it, delicate, but it just felt beautiful.
Yes.
It felt delicate.
Yes.
And it felt a lovely way to, very similar now to mindful movement, actually, where we just do very slow movements and we just connect to all parts of the body.
That's right.
Just to feel grounded.
Well, it is. It's very controlled. And I like it as well because it's sort of very, very strong. You've probably heard about rugby players, that take up
yes, I was
ballet,
told that story.
Because it's a different sort of strength. Dancers always try to get long muscle, which is, very, but they're incredibly strong.
Yeah.
The men in ballet, they're holding women above their head and, it's different sort of strength altogether.
Well, isn't there a thing, when I was laughing at myself in the mirror back at drama school, we got told a story about, this might be completely wrong, but the Australian ballet... went up at a strength test with the Australian rugby team, and the ballet boys just literally wiped. They just they overtook them.
It's
by
incredibly
a mile.
Yes. Well, this is it, and of course, and then the interesting thing is, of course, ballet is you've got to look like it's no effort at all. That's where the strength comes into it. Because if it looks like a rugby player can pant and huff and puff and everything, but you've got to look in complete control.
Yes, of course.
And there's this whole serene, it's like a swan, exactly like a swan. It's all beautiful and soft on the top, but underneath the legs are paddling like mad.
Yes.
That's exactly the analogy of ballet. So yes, it is very, very tough. And of course that I found worked against the singing side of things.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because what you do as a singer, you've got to sort of breathe from the sort of the diaphragm, the stomach.
Yeah.
Whereas as a ballet dancer, you're forever just topping up. You know, it's all up high in the chest, and of course that's no good for singing.
No.
So yeah, you have to sort of.
There's a picture as well on social media, isn't there, that does the rounds every now and then, where it shows somebody in some ballet shoes looking absolutely beautiful, lovely line, and then it shows another picture of their foot, not in the ballet, covered in cuts and bruises and strapped with and it's absolute.
No, it's appalling. It was. I mean, I came off relatively unscathed.
Right.
I was very lucky. I think the shape of your foot has a lot to do with it. If you've got a high instep, that's already you're on a winner, you know. But yeah, it could. Oh, I do remember the blisters and everything, and then you just shove surgical spirit straight on open blisters to keep them. Yeah, we would. You'd have to do that to harden the skin off.
Oh,
I know, it's revolting. And then, you know, of course, the shoes. If you were paying for your own shoes and weren't in a company, you'd sort of put the stuff that you used to put in cars to sort of like fiber. No, not petrol. No, like fiberglass. I remember you used to put shellac in the shoe to sort of strengthen it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was brutal. It really is.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you kind of slightly moved away from that when you went into musicals. And just off the top of my head, from the years I've known you, the things that I absolutely love is that you did Joseph.
I did,
with Jason Donovan.
I did them all.
So back in the very beginning, when that started.
Yes, it was Jason, and then we had Philip Schofield, and there was the other chap.
Was that the days of, did like Debbie Gibson from the West, from America? Did she do it, or Sonia?
I think that was it. I had Lindsay Haitley.
Who?
Lindsay Haitley did it.
Yeah, she's lovely.
Yeah, she's a lovely girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you went in to do, you did Oklahoma at the National.
Did that,
with
yes.
Who did you do that with, Nicola?
Sorry, just going a bit hot under the collar here. The lovely Hugh Jackman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hang on. Sorry. We just have to stop recording because you've just dropped this really heavy name on the floor. Here. Let me just pick it.
I didn't realise what you were doing. I'm looking on the floor, wondering what you're talking about.
No, how lovely. And I know you still you still keep in contact, don't you? Which is lovely.
Well, sort of. I mean, he's the most adorable, gorgeous fella. I mean, what a absolute star. I mean, in all aspects.
Yeah.
We used to sit on the side of the stage and watch him. He used to be slightly different every night. It was just such a wonderful actor, lovely singer, and just hilarious. Great, really, really lovely bloke. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer man.
Yeah, well, that's great, isn't it? It's nice
really
when you hear
nice.
success stories.
And that was again.
People.
I mean, I look back at all the companies I've worked with. I mean, that was just stunning company.
Yeah.
The people that were in it were just.
Wasn't the woman off Coronation Street? She was in it as well, wasn't? I say Coronation Street. That sounds awful. She's done a lot more than that. What's her name? Maureen Lipman.
Maureen, yes.
She was in it, wasn't she?
Oh, God. Well, you see, and there we go. We've come full circle. Because she did Joyce Grenfell's show. She was famous.
Oh.
That was her a big thing. It was all in the West End and everything. She was the first to sort of do I can't remember what it was called now. That's terrible. I've got a terrible memory. But yes, she did a one-woman show.
Right.
All about it. So yes, again, she's sort of very similar look to her, you know. But yes, she did. It was very different from my show. I mean, it's. I mean, she was the first. She did a lot of the monologues and everything. And of course, that's the other thing, because I was in all these flipping shows. I never got to see anything.
No, of course.
And I missed, you know, because we'd have working 6 days a week. We get Sunday off. And
8 shows a week.
Yeah. That was for years and years and years. So I really missed a lot of shows, you know, because I never got to, I think it's slightly different now. I think they do Monday shows or something.
A lot of them do Sundays.
I mean, and then you get Monday off
Mondays
or something,
off.
yeah.
And then a matinee used to be on a Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Now it's like a Thursday or a Friday and a Saturday.
Yeah.
Sometimes they clump them all together over a weekend. It's very different now.
I missed out. I would have loved to have seen her. But, you know, again, she was adorable. And she was very nice to me, actually, because I think she knew I was sort of honing in on the comedy side of things.
Yeah.
And I was very naughty in the show as well, because I used to make them all laugh. And so yes, it was very great fun.
Well,
great
maybe
fun.
you could do a Maureen Lipman show at some point.
Oh no, I'm getting confused now.
Whatever that could be, that is a real full circle.
Well, she's had a massive career. She's again a sort of comedian that is just drama and everything.
So,
and a writer, what a brilliant writer too.
Of course. What I wanted to ask you was the thing that put me off of doing like 8 shows a week in the West End. Not that I ever got a chance to do it, but the thing that terrified me when I used to go to auditions was there was a point when they'd say, we're looking for understudies.
Yes.
And I'd go for an understudy rehearsal, and all I kept thinking, Nicola, was I need a good 6 weeks rehearsal to play that part.
Yes.
To understudy 2 or 3 parts, to not go on, to have them under my belt.
I know.
I just can't do it. And that's why I kind of stepped away into my like solo comedy work, because I thought it terrified me, absolutely terrified me, the thought of knowing that. And I have a friend who at the moment is understudying 4 parts, 4 tracks as they call it. And just doesn't go on from one week to the next.
No.
And it that pressure, and talk about my anxiety. I mean, I would be sat in that theatre every day up to my eyes in anxiety.
Yeah.
But I know that you understudied Sarah Brightman.
Well, actually, no. It's sort of not true, really.
You didn't try and push her down the stairs?
This is going to be hilarious. I was her body double. I never, although I would have just killed for that part, but I body doubled from her in the because
in those action scenes
in the action
Phantom
scenes.
of the Opera.
Yes, I know. And I tell you, there was a wonderful part because I think she was off doing some promotion of some other thing, and it was quite near the beginning of the opening when we first opened, and Michael was doing a video of the music of the night.
Oh yeah.
And of course needed Sarah to do the bit, but she wasn't available. So I'm the one on the actual video of it. But it's my back. So I'm doing very serious back acting.
Your back is in the video of music of the night with...
Yes, that's me. Yes, because, I was body doubling for... Well, I sort of look like her as well. I think, it's that sort of big, wide... it's very good. We were all wearing these magnificent sort of Renaissance wigs, the long curly hair.
Yeah.
And I actually had black hair. I mean, I've been blonde all my life, but I had this long black curly wig on, and we all had really heavy black sort of makeup, and yes, I got away with it. But there were only scenes where she was sort of walking on the travelator at the back and everything.
Right.
But Michael did it. So he was, because we had to climb up a huge ladder right to the top of the flies and then walk across this thing. And I used to wait every night for Michael to come up, and then we'd walk across the travelator. So yeah, I was more of like a stunt. Phantom of the
the original Phantom of the Opera.
No, I wasn't actually. But I have done, I will always, I'm glad you mentioned that about the understudy, because I've always hold what we call swings and understudy people. Yeah. The highest of the high. They are I'm being big-headed, but they are the most, underrated people in a show, because they hold it together. I mean, without them, the shows would cancel.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, when I first did Cats, I started as a swing.
Right.
I had 8 parts.
Oh my gosh.
And when I first went in, I think I went home and cried the first day when I looked at it, because I thought, I am never going to know this. Because it's not just what they do. You had to learn their tracks under the stage, because it was all on this big rubbish dump. So you had to learn where to find your tap shoes, where to, Of
course, we say it's a show. People come to watch a show, but they don't realise there's a bigger show going on backstage.
Oh, totally.
With people swapping sides, getting changed, understage, upstage, up, down, round. All sorts happen.
And it took me about 3 to 4 months to be totally secure in everyone. And of course, I was never off, because there were so many injuries in the show, because it's a full-on, it's the biggest dance thing you're ever likely to do. It's really hard work. But I was on every night, and sometimes I was on for more than one person. I was on doing part of another person's track, and sometimes I'd do 3. So, yeah.
But how did you deal with that? With, like I mentioned about my anxiety be through the roof. Are you somebody that just did it?
No, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And of course, that was the show where I sort of started learning to sing on my own. I'd always sung in chorus, like Phantom and On Your Toes and everything. But Cats, you had the odd part that I was understudying that I had to sing out loud, on their own with a mic.
So when you came in that morning, like every morning, how did you go about that in your mind for your own?
Well, you walk in the door and you find out who's off.
Yeah.
And you go, right. Okay. So I'm doing her. Well, and once you it was terrifying. I had a folder sort of about 3 foot thick of all the tracks and everything. But once you're into it and once you know what you're doing, you'd sort of say, who's off tonight? I get to do, great, I love that. And of course, everybody, if you're in a show for a year, you have holidays, so there'd always be ones that were booked out. You knew were coming up.
And
people would have a week off or even 2 weeks, and you'd know, I've got a week of what,
Right.
At that point, I was understudying White Cat among my 8 characters. Right. And I used to go on for White, and I did enjoy it. I loved it. And then the girl, she was my best buddy actually. And when she left, I took over White Cat.
Right.
But I hated it because I didn't hate it. I loved it. Yeah. But after about 4 or 5 months, I was bored out of my head. Yeah. And it's exhausting.
Yes.
And I just said, do you know what? I really would like to go back. So I went back to being swing because apart from anything else, I was earning a fortune.
Yes,
because you get paid every time.
People don't know, you get paid for the more parts that you know.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to perform them, but you get paid.
Yes.
Yeah, and then if you perform it, you get paid on top of that again.
You get an understudy fee and everything.
Right.
So I was really... this is where I was saving money toward what be my flat that we're sitting in now, So, I went back to being swing because it was, and also the White Cat, she's very sweet and everything, but I used to like doing the more sort of nasty cats, or with a bit of personality, and I didn't have to be smiled.
What's your favourite musical you've ever done? What did you have the most fun with?
That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. I couldn't put a pin between them. They were all... Phantom was just incredible because of nobody knew. I actually auditioned for Chess, when it first came out in London, and I didn't get it, and I was devastated, because I'd heard the concept album and I thought, I love the music, I loved it there, and I was really grumpy about it. And then my agent phoned up and she said, well, I've got this other one to do. It's called Phantom of the Opera. And I went, oh God, really? What's that all about? I really wasn't interested, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they wanted ballet dance. They wanted 6 ballet dancers who had to be very, and there were something like 8 auditions. It was massive. And then we sort of got a feeling could be big, and nobody knew what it was going to be like.
No.
So that was just special.
Well, that was from the start. Michael Crawford, Sarah Brightman. Yes. That exploded.
That was huge.
To have been part of that.
Yeah, it was
time.
very, very special. And even now, I sort of cry slightly when I see the adverts on the tube and it says 35 years. I just want to kill myself. You're kidding me? It feels like yesterday.
Do you go, I was in that from the start? Do you turn to people and go, I was in that first?
Well, yes, yeah. Well, they have had reunions occasionally. We did one at the Albert Hall, and and because sort of every time you go back, there might be a few less people, but it's funny, you sort of bump into people there, and I love them all, and you sort of go, oh gosh, look how old they look. And that's how old I am. And then you sort of chat, and after 5 minutes, the wrinkles disappear.
Yeah,
because you're just the same person.
Of course,
we don't change. Nobody changes. I'm exactly that same person. This is why I'm horrified, when I look at my bus pass and I think, oh my God. But, it feels like yesterday.
Are there any musicals that you love listening to? Because obviously nowadays, you were saying to me earlier about how you just love being in your garden now, how that's your bit of mindful time, isn't it, being in your garden?
Oh, yes. I love gardening. Love it.
Did you do much of that when you were in the West End, or was it all about being in the West End?
It was all about being in the West End.
That's what your
at
life
that time,
was.
yes. I think no, actually, I tell a lie. There was a few things because although in a show like Cats, you you sort of say, oh, you only go in the evening to do your show. You know, what do you do? You're like, you don't, you know, because Tuesdays there were matinee days. You were in there. Mostly I was doing a class as well. So I do a class in the morning, you know. You'd be doing understudy calls. You'd be doing other stuff, you know. So you were in all the time. It was all consuming. But there were some other shows where, you know, perhaps I had time to myself, you know, during the day, and I took up painting.
Oh, okay.
I taught myself watercolor and pen and ink painting, and I used to enjoy
mindful
that.
time. That
yeah,
was your time
I
just
loved
to
it,
check out
and I've always liked doing things. I've now found I've got these wonderful earphones, you know, the big ones, the noise cancellation. So I now am away with the fairies. You know, if I'm in the garden, I can be out there for hours, and I'm listening to. I've found this new thing, the shuffle. You know, whether you just
shuffle.
Well, I've got a lot of all my albums on my phone,
and
it just randomly plays because you're so used to a track coming on. If I'm listening to Stevie Wonder or something, and you think, oh, I know what comes, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And at first it threw me because I thought, oh no, I know that comes next. But now I love it because this. But can I tell you the funniest thing? Because on my album play, I've got a few of Mike's stuff that's on there, and one of them is all the stuff from your show, you know, all the Basil Brush like sound effects. So I was out there once when I was doing some digging, and I had this beautiful song. It was like, you know, it was so appropriate, you know, Stevie Wonder, I want to come back as a flower. You know, it was all so good. I was away, it was lovely, and it ended. It went, la. And then I heard, and it was a series of fart noises. And it was because in these big earphones, I just jumped out of my skin. I thought someone had come into the garden.
That was from the educational part of our Basil Brush. This brings us on to our little home retreat idea that I'm going to do with you now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you just little quick answers about a little home retreat for you, just to finish up today. A home retreat.
A home retreat.
It will make sense as we go along.
Okay.
All I'm going to ask you is, what's your favourite day of the week?
Friday.
Friday?
Yeah.
And what time of the day? What's your favourite time of the day?
Oh, probably about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock in the
evening.
Cup of
tea time.
Early evening.
Yeah.
And what's your favourite place to be? Sort of like just not you know, on a beach in Havana, but somewhere sort of here. Where's your favourite place to sit, to relax?
Sitting in the garden.
In the garden.
If it's warm. Well, actually, no, to be honest, I sit down in clothes or anything.
Me too.
Yeah, just sit there in the garden. Probably I won't sit for long because I go, oh, I'll just go and do that. I've got to prune that rose or do that.
And who would you be with? Are you quite happy by yourself, or do you like to have people around you?
Oh, I like with Mike. We always have a little. He comes down sometimes when I'm gardening with a cup of tea in hand, with a little something,
little biscuit,
and and then we just sit down, have a little chat for sort of half an hour, and that's it. It's just like a moment.
What about clothing? What are you most comfortable in? What's your go-to? What do you love wearing?
I like wearing dresses. Actually, I'm not girly. Well, I am girly, I suppose, but yes, I like that. But I was saying, you know, earlier, I tend to be in work clothes most of the time now. I've always liked the idea.
Stuff you can dig in.
Yeah, something for digging in. No, I've always loved the idea of being sort of one of those lovely artisan people with a sort of smock. You know, like a gardener's
floaty,
smock.
Floral smock.
Well, no, like a working smock.
Oh, with pockets.
So I can put my trowel in and with a big floppy hat. I'm just going to go and prune the roses, dear.
Long gone are the days of you walking on a travelator with Michael Crawford. And what about what is your favourite music? Do you have a genre of music that you love listening to?
Well,
or just that shuffle button?
Oh, it's a shuffle button. I mean, mine ranges all over. God, I thought about it the other day. I thought, God, if I was ever invited on, which I won't, but if I ever had to do Desert Island Discs, I wouldn't know where to start because every time I hear something, that's my favourite.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then I move on to something and I thought, oh, I'd get bored with that. You know, maybe I would grow out of that.
Move to something else.
It's funny because I listened to my son's playlist the other day because I've decided I'm doing a playlist for him of my music.
Right, yeah.
He's very open to stuff, you know, and he likes films and everything. So he listens to film scores. But I don't know. I mean, I go back from stuff that my mum and dad used to, and then that puts me in a total setting. You know, Nat King Cole, Ray Charles, all those sort of people I love. And when I listen to that, I get very sort of warm and nostalgic. I love that. And then, you know, there was another era that was all Simon and Garfunkel and things like that. And then the more modern stuff I found later on, which are actually older, people like Joni Mitchell. I suddenly looked, actually, a lot of them are women, but
mine are all my favourite artists.
Yeah, they are a lot of women.
All of them.
It's sort of Joni Mitchell and I like Tori Amos.
Yeah,
she's wonderful. I love all, you know.
And obviously we did Glastonbury last year with the Basil Brush show. We were there together, and we love
Christine
and the Queens, and she's back this year.
Oh, I love. Yes, she's got
a new album coming out.
Yeah, I love her. She's so.
You're definitely a shuffle person. You're definitely.
I'm very. Oh, it really is. It's no. You can't.
What about your favourite scent? If you could turn your favourite scent into a candle that you could light, what would it be?
Now that's funny. I'm very strong on smell. Very evocative. I've got a really revolting candle in my lounge that I can't throw away because it's got to. God knows what it was. But it just does something to me.
Right.
And then I found one of those things, you know, where you put the sticks in, and I found one that I love of those. That I haven't got I like. I now, of course, my dear mum, who used to have, Chanel. So when I smell that, I smell her.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous. And I often put a spritz of something that I really like in my suitcase before I go away.
Oh, yeah.
I spray the inside of the suitcase and I think, oh, that's nice. It's just lovely. I don't know. I mean, you know, I've sort of changed
nice,
over the years.
That's a comforting smell.
I found one normally that I found one that was a Penhaligon's, and I didn't realise it was called Eau de Nil.
Oh.
And it's gorgeous. It's not sweet. It's not anything. It's a very strange. I suppose it's probably got a bit of musk or something. I'm not sure. But it was really expensive. I thought, I can't be forking out for that. I cannot. So I used to go into Bentle's, you know, and just spray it on my wrist every time I went in. You know, I thought, I'll just put it on, make it look like I acted, you know. It's like, oh, what's this? You know, and until they started to see me every day, you know, I was just, oh, what's this? You know, and I'd spray it on. And then I went across the road to John Lewis. How middle class is it? And I sprayed this other one, and it was a different one. It was, who was that? Liz Earle. Oh. And I was spraying one on, and I went, oh my God, that smells just like the one over there. So I went back over the road, and I kept putting one on one hand and one on the other. Well, it was about a third of the price, but and apparently it's obviously something that I like because it's, I don't know how to say it, oud.
What was in it?
OUD.
Oh.
And it must be something, Eau de Nil.
Oh.
I don't know what it is, but I smelt it in two places, and I recognised the smell.
Yeah.
So that is funny.
Eau de Nil.
Yeah, Eau de Nil.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And what about your favourite food? What's your favourite food? Comforting food.
Honey.
Honey.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Honey on really nice bread, toast and honey.
Oh yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
And what about drink?
And thanks to you, excuse me.
Yeah.
I go through a jar of peanut butter and Marmite every week.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
So sorry.
But you did that to me. I asked to say, oh, Martin, can I have a little spoonful of that thing on my toast because I'm really hungry. And then that was it.
Marmite
and I have infected
butter.
Many people as well. My sister is now, she goes through it. And my nephew, who lives up in near Coventry, and he sent me a picture because I told him about it, and he sent me a picture of that next to his toaster, and he said, oh my God.
I remember seeing Marmite peanut butter thinking, oh no, really? Or you could just do that yourself with Marmite and peanut butter.
Yeah, I did think of that when I ran out and I was desperate. I thought maybe you can't know.
There's a sharpness to it.
Oh, it's the sharpness. I know.
It's cracking, isn't it?
And I sometimes have half a bit of toast with that and half a bit of honey with honey on it.
I just love that.
It's your fault.
I know. I love it. You're welcome. And what about your favourite drink? Maybe non-alcoholic or alcoholic? What would be your favourite tipple to sit down with?
Oh, Well, a cup of tea, really.
A cup of tea.
3 a day, I think I go through.
A cup of tea.
I love. Well, I don't drink any spirits. I've tried desperately because I've always tried. But the only thing I have drunk as a spirit and really enjoyed was on the cruise, which is a margarita.
Margarita.
I think it's the salt again. It's the Marmite thing coming in, isn't it?
Marmite round the rim of
round the rim, yeah.
Well, listen, here we go then. So your little home retreat,
yes,
which is a way of saying not like you're taking some time for yourself, but you're actually having a little home retreat with all your favourite things.
Yeah,
is on a Friday, 5:00 in the garden with Mike.
Yeah.
You're wearing a smock. You're shuffling through your Spotify playlist.
Oh, it sounds like every day.
You've got Eau de Nil smelling from somewhere, whatever that may be. You're eating toast and honey, maybe a bit of Marmite and peanut butter on the side, and drinking a cup of tea.
That actually sounds like my life as it is now.
That is your ultimate moment. It's not about Travelators of Michael Crawford.
What's new with the Travelator?
It fascinates me.
You wait till it broke down one night.
No, you broke down on the Travelator.
Yeah.
What happened?
I can't remember. I think we just sort of said, oh, that's gone then. And we sort of sidled off and had to climb down a 60-foot ladder.
Nowadays,
there were so many things.
Can you still climb down ladders nowadays? You probably have to have a special lift.
You were talking about cats. So I remember when I was when I was doing my first parts for the first time. They never told. I had to do this thing where you had to swing on a trapeze, literally above the set, a huge trapeze, and you had to get up onto a launching platform and then do this swing. No safety line at all, nothing.
You're joking.
And you swing right across, swing back, swing across, swing back, and then you get on. Well, I wasn't told that when you do the trapeze part, this etc., I think the part was called, you have to put on a special tail, which is shorter than the other tails, because otherwise it would get caught on the thing when you went. Oh, my gosh. And God, that happened to me.
Oh, no,
because nobody told me.
Don't.
And I was literally suspended. The guy, Rum Tum Tugger, the guy that played Richard Lloyd King, caught me by the tail. And at one point I was leaning at 45 degrees over the set and just being held by this tail. And he hauled me back over. And I went, oh, that was fun. And of course, I think from then on, I think someone did actually fall and they fell on the set and, they had to they didn't stop the show. They just
drag them off.
They did.
Dead cat.
In fact, one of the big cats, one of the guys came over and I thought, oh my God, don't move her. You don't know what's happened. Yeah. Just picked her off and went off. But from then on, of course, everybody had to wear a harness, which was actually a pain because you had to sort of click it all on and, it was a nightmare. Yeah. But, it just goes to show, it was... and, I got paid £2 for doing that. £2 to do it was an extra. I'm doing the flying trapeze tonight. £2 extra.
Well, listen, those £2 have managed you to get your peanut butter on a Friday afternoon, sit in the garden. Darling, thank you so much for chatting today. It's been lovely. And if anybody is in Windsor at the Old Court on the 1st of April 2023, you'll be there doing your wonderful Joyce Grenfell show.
I will indeed. Thank you so much for coming along. It's been such a pleasure.
And she might enter the stage on a trapeze. I just absolutely love talking to Nicola. Sometimes you meet someone who, if you were going on a 10-hour drive with, that you would have a good old natter. You wouldn't stop talking about whatever. People are just comfortable. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? Because there's also the opposite to that, where there's a lot of people that I can't even imagine being 5 minutes in a car with. But she's just an absolute diamond. I love hearing her stories. She's so interesting. She does have a website. I think it's nicolakeane.com or .co.uk. Google her name. She'll pop up if you want to read more about her wonderful career. What an absolute star. Thank you so much for listening today. And I do need to end just by saying that this is April 2023. And on the 18th of April, I start my 8-week mindfulness and self-compassion course here in Windsor in person. You can go to www.co. Oh, hang on. Did I just do an extra W? I can't remember now. I'm too excited about musicals. I need to go and listen to Les Mis for a couple hours. Go to www.upgrade upgradeyourday.co.uk. Find out all about my 8-week course, which is now booking. And also, I should mention that last week we did a sunrise ramble on the last day of winter. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. We headed out in the dark at about 5:30 in the morning, and we were welcomed with the most beautiful, beautiful sunrise. And it really felt like Mother Nature was saying, I think you've all had enough of winter now. Here's spring. You're welcome. It was absolutely beautiful. And I do these at the beginning of every season. So if you're interested in heading out into the dark where maybe you wouldn't go out by yourself, but with a group of people, you like the idea of that, come along and join us. I do 4 or 5 a year. All the details are on the website as well. And I've also got my spring ramble in May. So in May, we go out a little bit later in the day at 10 a.m. and we go for a good 2-hour ramble around the countryside of Windsor and Eton. We have a little bit of a meditation, a 5-minute meditation halfway through as well, a little bit of mindful walking. But if that's not your thing, you can just sit by the river for a little bit. It's completely up to you, but that is also booking as well. So please check out the website, come along. I'm now off to listen to a bit of Les Mis. I think I need to sing around the house for a couple hours. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.